cooking show. This is October, and we are cooking. Anybody cooking with us tonight? I just want to make sure so that we can kind of keep you in the loop as far as the timing. There's a lot of steps and a lot of processes, so we want to make sure you're all with us on the steps. Okay, okay. So you all have a guide sheet. This is your key, and this is to tell you what your ingredients are for each recipe. I highly suggest that you would lay these out in recipe, like group them together by the recipe. That way you'll know exactly what's needed for each one as we go. All right. So are we ready to start cooking now? Your rice should look like this, right? And this would have been your kombu. Okay, I've got a support person helping me with. So this is what it looks like. This is actually going to be tossed. You don't actually have to keep this. You're welcome to try it. I think it's got not much flavor, but try it. It's something new on your palate, so give it a shot. But you don't have to keep that, so we can discard that. Okay. And then your rice, we're going to use obviously later for our sushi. But we're going to start out with the sushi rice first, because this one is the most complex of the whole set of recipes. So what we're going to do is we've got our rice, we've got our shiitake mushrooms. So you should have soaked your shiitake mushrooms. There wasn't a time limit on it, but it's just to get them soft. Keep your water from the shiitake mushrooms. And then we are going to start out with the, our next step will be the saucepan of water. So I'm going to bring a pot of water together, just bring it to boil. And then we're going to soak our gobo. Right? So,
sorry, that's campio.
Campio. Thank you. So this is basically what we're going to be soaking. Once you're done, it's going to look like this. So it has kind of like a fiber, I would say it feels fibrous. And then we're going to cut this up small. Okay, so you're going to get a pot of water boiling first. While that's getting started to boil, we want to rinse this. Okay, rinse it underwater. You have an IS, right? And that will be the salt that you're going to rub with this. So we're going to rinse that off. Now we're going to rub, I'll squeeze it out real good, and then I'm going to rub salt into it. So you can pour your salt over the top of it. If you don't use all your salt, that's okay. I'm going to kind of try and coat it. Okay, so we're going to rub that with that teaspoon of salt, and then we're going to rinse it, and we're going to let it drain off soup as well. Okay, so I squeeze that out. My water is going to boil soon, and we're going to boil that for 3 minutes. All right, so once you get that rinsed and ready, it will separate out once you put it into the hot water. So get your boiling water ready to go. In the meantime, you also want to have your shiitake mushrooms out ready. You also have the CRM, right? I double check on mine. We have SR, sushi rice. We have sesame seeds. I have actually more sesame seeds, different spots. And I also have a dry dashi, right? Dashi powder. So this is also something we're going to need to rehydrate. So while everything is getting going, I'm going to rehydrate this. I believe it was the 2/3 of a cup of water. Gotta find my directions on that. We're going to get 2/3 of a cup of water. Okay, and you'll rehydrate. Pour this in, and it rehydrates. All right, so we're going to let that sit. My water is almost boiling. And we'll get our campio ready. Okay, so I'm still waiting on that. So let's see, we're gonna get this boiling for 3 minutes, and then we're gonna cut this up really small. So I left all my mushrooms out here, And we're gonna cut these up. We're almost gonna mince it. So you have burdock and carrots in a bag. That's gonna go along with your mushrooms. And rather than leave it whole as it is right now, I encourage you to like cut it up really small. We can get kind of like a minced consistency. That way it'll, when you put it into the rice mixture, it'll not be too big and it won't be, the carrots won't be sticking out of your tofu pocket. All right. I have an ice bath here too. So that's going to be able to stop the cooking process of our kankyo. What is kankyo?
The dried gourd.
Can they hear Kelly? Dried gourd strip. So here's the kind of the thing when I was measuring it out. So this gourd, if you think about, if it's a gourd, we typically think of gourds as not as large, but if we think about that, that's one piece. So I don't know if it goes like they're going around multiple times to get it, but that would be a strip from a gourd. So that's what our kankyo is. All right, so I have boiling water. And again, I'm going to do a 3-minute boil. All right, so what time is it? 3-minute timer. So we'll get that going, and then we're going to put that, as soon as it gets done, we're going to put it into a ice bath. All right, so while that's cooking, in a small, I have a really tiny saucepan, so we're going to put we're going to put the kankyo in there. We're going to get that boiling 3 minutes, cool it off, and we're going to cut it and combine it here. Then I'm going to have the dashi, which was my rehydrated mixture. And I think I'll stir it up with, use my knife to stir it. Okay, just stir that up. And we're gonna have, in a pot, you're gonna have the mushrooms, the shiitake mushrooms, and the kankyo together. Those will be diced. So we're gonna use a pot to put that in. So here is a pretty small pot. Put that together, and it's just, I'm just getting it ready for our steps. So we're going to put the shiitake liquid, which should be SR.
No, that's the sushi rice.
Whoa.
It's the brown one, the CRM, the Chirashi rice mix.
Okay, thank you. CRM. We're going to mix that together with the, we're going to put the shiitake liquid that you kept from the shiitake mushrooms. I put that in here. We have this has sake here and sugar and soy sauce. We're going to put that together. And that's going to actually come to a boil as well. So we're going to get that ready, but we're not going to start it yet. So on my kankyo, we're close, and then I'll grab, we're going to pull it out with hair tongs and get it ready. Okay. Any questions so far? For those of you that are cooking with me, I appreciate your working with us.
The audio cut out for me, but did you put something else inside of the dashi besides the CRM?
The mushroom,
The mushrooms?
the shiitake mushroom water.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I did the CRM, the shiitake mushroom liquid reserved, and then I put that in a small pot. Yeah, because we're going to boil that. We're going to bring that to a boil. All right, so I'm close on my timer with the kankyo, I would imagine. Couple seconds. All right. We were a couple seconds starting. The CRM is the shoyu, the sake, mirin, sugar. That was mixed for you. So that one is ready to go. You just have to pour it into the pot along with, that is step number under the Chirashi mix. That is step,
Lower.
I lost it. Mushrooms, Yeah, so we're gonna add the mushrooms and the compute. So now we're gonna pull this out. Okay, put it in the ice bath. Get this one out. All right, so that is done. The compio is done. So now we're gonna take the compio, we've got it ready and we're gonna cut it into small pieces. So it's not the cooking process. We're also gonna squeeze this out. So one of the things with this rice mixture or this consistency is you wanna get it pretty dry. So get your, your shiitake mushrooms squeezed and kept liquid, but get this compio squeezed out really good. And we're gonna get it not dry, but we're gonna squeeze out as much water as we can. Okay. Then we're gonna cut up I'm just gonna cut it together with my shiitake mushrooms. And like I said, you wanna get that as small as you can. The other thing we can do as well is we're going to add the mushrooms and the compio to this pot that I just created. That was the CRM and the liquid from the mushrooms. So I'm just gonna chop this in small pieces, more of a mince. So I think just chopping it with cutting it up real small with your mushrooms. It's a little slippery, so make sure your knife gets down to the bottom. And mince that. Then we're gonna add this mixture. We're gonna add it to our liquid that we have on the stove. And we're gonna bring that to a simmer. Has anybody ever made this before? Do we have any experts in the house? We're all silent. All right. All right. That's okay. We're going at this together, right? So I think we've got it pretty well cut up. I'm going to bring my liquids to a simmer. So I would say on medium is where you want to start. So we're going to shoot for medium heat, bring it to a simmer, add your mushrooms and compio to the pot. And then we can get that up to a simmer. So let me get this a little closer. Add this into the pot. Okay. All right. I'm gonna get that to simmer, and that is going to simmer on medium. We're going to see a little bit of a kind of a foam or something that starts to come up. So what we're going to do next is decrease. We've got that simmer, and then we're going to get this with a droplet. So if you wanted to do I'll have a piece of foil. So basically, depending on the size of your pan, you can either fold this together and make it in a roundish, size, so that we're going to actually get it to drop down on top of those mushrooms and that compio. So I think that's about right. Go a little smaller, and then we'll poke some holes in it. So it basically is. If anybody was with us when we did the pears, we created basically a lid that was out of parchment in order to help reduce that loss of moisture. So we're going to get this on the top, and you can kind of shape it to your pan. And I think what I'll do is poke, I could use the knife and poke some holes through it. Unless we have a fork. Let's see if we can do that without breaking it. Yeah. So poke some holes in your drop. We call this a drop top, right? We'll get some holes so that it goes through. Just allows that moisture. They do make metal ones that you can actually purchase, so you don't have to create this on your own. But if you don't have one, then this would work. Go from this side. All right. So I've got it almost at a simmer. So I'm gonna put this on top and we are going to keep this basically moist. So we're starting to get that simmer. I don't want to turn it up so hot that it starts to boil and then it gets too hot. So we'll wait just another second and let it get up to the spot where it's ready. And we need to cook this for, whoops, I'm turning it down too far. What I don't want to do is have all my liquid coming up above it. Let's try to set it. That works. All right. So we're gonna let that cook for a little bit. So it says to cook that for
20 to 25 minutes.
Okay.
Until the liquid is almost gone.
All right. So 20 to 25 minutes. Timer. 20 to 25 minutes, and we're going to see how that goes. And then we're going to add the carrots and the burdock closer to the end. So what I'm going to do so we have that is cut these up a little more. Give these a little bit of a size down so that we have smaller pieces. So I just random chop. It doesn't have to be a perfect size. That will just help. When you put these in the rice pockets, remember your rice pockets are only so big, and so this will actually work and shrink down a little bit better. Great color. All right. So have that ready, and that's what you're going to add just before the end of that mixture, finishing off to dry up. Okay. While that's cooking, we can start with the rice. So we're going to get the sushi rice ready. And what I did was I grabbed a sheet pan. So if you have a cookie sheet, you can do that. And we're going to get the rice. And we're going to, let's see, put it on a baking sheet. So we're adding water so that we can put this down. And our parchment paper hopefully won't get the stick. That's why we're using a rice paddle earlier. Okay, so it should come out. And then we're going to use we actually need to heat our sushi rice liquid up. So we're going to heat that up in another pan. Oops. Need to turn my heat down so it's still on that simmer. Right now it's a little bit hot in the simmer. All right, so I'm going to pour this into a pan, and this try to help with it. The sugar has already dissolved, so part of the reason it was for this was to get that sugar to dissolve. But actually, that vinegar taste will drop a bit when it gets heated up. So we're going to heat this up. And we're going to cook that just for a short bit for it to reduce the, I'll just bring it to a quick boil and then turn it off. Okay, so that's just that sushi rice liquid by itself. And we're going to have that boil and then we'll turn it off. And it kind of, we don't want to, here's the thing, you don't want to evaporate that. You just want it to get to the point where it gets hot and then you're good. So I'll turn that off. Got a nice steam coming off, but we don't want to dehydrate our mixture. So I'll leave that as is. This goes on top of your rice. So, so you have your rice, you're going to pour. Are you good? Can you hear me now? No? Are we good? We're back on? Okay, great. So we're going to pour the vinegar over, and we're going to try to spread it out. So if you dropped your rice out onto a pan or something where it's like in one shape, kind of use your paddle to get the rice vinegar all over. Just kind of spreads it out. Okay. That's in there. And the next thing is you're gonna, it says slice it to get it to mix. So you can use your paddle and you're gonna slice just so you get that vinegar going into the rice. You don't have to spread it out too far, but you'll have to keep it and get it to mix in because you really want that vinegar flavor to go into the whole bunch of rice to make that sushi rice. All right, and it also talks about a fan to cool it. So again, you just want to kind of get it to the point where it's going to cool off a bit. So it's looking good. We'll mix it together. We have that. You can see a little bit of vinegar on the bottom. So that's a good sign that it's getting, we're coating all our rice. Okay. And then what we're going to let happen is this is going to cool off. So if you can spread it out fairly wide, it's going to cool off faster for you. All right. So if you have it in a tight, if you keep it in a tight container, it's not going to dry or to cool off fast enough. So keep it spread as much as you can. Then that one, once it's cooled, then we're going to kind of squeeze off any liquid. All right. So I'm going to let that sit for now. This is still simmering. Turn up just a bit. All right. Inari. Is that right? Inari. So these are your fried tofu packets. So these are what you're going to be stuffing your rice mixture into. So we'll have those out and ready. So we're going to drain and we're going to keep the liquid. So I probably will squeeze it into a measuring cup. I don't want to squeeze them too hard because they are a little delicate. So we'll drain off that extra liquid. And those will be ready when we get ready for when we have the rice finished. All right. Okay. So I can tell you a little bit of some trivia here. So burdock that were used in the mixture that has the burdock and carrot, that's actually native to North Asia and Europe. Now we have it in the US. It's a really what we call a deep root, so it grows deeply. And it is holistically, they use it as a diuretic. So if it's a diuretic, what does that mean? Does anybody know what diuretics help us with? What is a diuretic for? I can tell you it's also really high in antioxidants. So we're not using too much, but it's definitely a good source of antioxidants. But does anybody know what a diuretic does? Let's try. It helps to basically it helps you to excrete urine, so it helps get that. Some people retain water, so you wouldn't want to be on a diuretic and eat a lot of burdock. And again, they do make it into supplements, so you have to be cautious with that. So sensitivity as far as people that have allergies to chrysanthemums or daisies may have a little bit of sensitivity to the burdock, but that's maybe one in I don't know what the likelihood of that. But again, just knowing that. Also, it's something that is very similar to what we call a nightshade, one of the nightshade roots. So don't go out and try and find your own burdock and harvest it. Make sure you get it from a reputable source. That is important. All right, so that's still cooking. How are we doing? Those of you that are cooking, how are you doing? That's still. Anybody want to? How you feeling so far? Hopefully good. Our rice is looking good. It's drying out. Our next dish that I can tell you we'll create after this, it's going to be the soup, and we're going to do the andagi last. One thing you might think about doing is get your oil ready. You all went home with a container of oil. It's gonna take some time for that to heat up, and you don't want to heat it up to the point where it gets super hot, super fast, and you can't control the heat. So if you put it into a pot, get it heated up, and I would say start on like a medium, on an electric, that would be a 5. So start your heating up of your oil. You can even start at 3 for now. As we get closer, then we'll kick it over to the 5. But start with 5 to get that hot. All right. Oh, very good. Having a partner. All right, so I'm gonna start I'm just gonna get the eggs ready for the soup, just because we have a little bit of time. This is still cooking off. So I am going to, you can actually still use this cup if you want. You don't have to have an extra dish done. So I'm gonna flip over to my soup. My helper is gonna help pronounce this. Harusame. All right. So we have eggs, and this is a full one. So we need to have 1 egg. 1 egg. Okay, so you have 1 egg is for the andagi. So get your egg, and you can actually put it right into that cup. Okay, and we're gonna mix it up. And what's the purpose of putting it into a cup with a spout or something? And we can actually turn this into a really nice, it'll become like a spout. But I'm going to mix this egg up. And then I'm going to shift my pans or my cutting board, and we're going to cut up our onion. So we got our egg ready to go, and we'll set that aside. And then I'll move my rice mixture. And I'm going to bring over my soup ingredients. So we have tofu, we have sesame seeds, we have wakame, and we have probably a shoyu chicken broth mixture. Oh no, shoyu. Let's see, salt, pepper, ready to go, and then sesame oil. This did get a little bit on, when we did a trial run earlier, it got a little salty. So if you want to cut the salt back initially, and you can always add, remember you can't take away salt, but you can always add. So if you want to cut your chicken broth cube into a half, you might end up with a little bit less salty soup in the final. So I'm going to cut it in half, and we'll try that. Okay. So while that is going, I'm going to get my onions going. And this talked about creating them, cutting them on the diagonal. So because these are really long, it's a little bit of a hint for you. If you ever get onions that are this long, like really nice long structures, that means they're grown here. If they're coming from the mainland, they're cut off short. So some of the recipes that we've sent home have the little short ones. They're like a foot long. But when you get the nice long greens, that's actually grown here in Hawaii. So to make it easier on you, make a whole bunch of smaller sections, and then we can cut them. So we're going to cut them on a diagonal, which means they end up like a teardrop shape. So I'm going to try and line up my onions so I can go through them. And we are going to use the white part, but you want it, so if your onions are going straight, you're going to cut them at an angle. Oops. Okay. Oops, ankle's not quite cut all the way through. So you're going to cut them at an angle, and they'll give you like a teardrop shape. All right. So those will be ready, and then we're going to cut up we'll cut the rest of the whites as well. And you've got tofu that we're going to cut that up. So your simmering mixture of mushroom and campio should be going still, possibly. We're going to get these on an angle. We're going to cut this all up. All right. These don't have to necessarily be at that nice angle. So now we have our onions ready to go. The white part separate from the green. I have tofu, and I'm going to cut that into 1/2-inch cubes so we can drain it. If you are looking for tofu with a lot of calcium in it, find the actual tofu that identifies it as calcium sulfate. So our house tofu that you see on the market here a lot, real common, and I would guess this is house tofu that you got. It has, it's made with the calcium sulfate, which actually increases calcium content. So we're gonna make some cubes here. I did a cut down the center, and then I did 3 cuts on that square, and then I'll do, let's see, 4 cuts. So we get these nice cubes. Okay. So I'm gonna get that kind of out of the side. We're gonna also rehydrate our wakame. So that is your, looks black, and that's another type of seaweed. So we're gonna get that into a bowl. I'm gonna hydrate it with just a little bit of water. Okay, we'll let that sit. And then we're gonna get another medium pot ready. So I have a pot here, and we're gonna put, when it gets hot, so I'm gonna actually transfer so it's easier for you to see. Move this one over. Get that back going again. Oops. I'm gonna get this one hot. And you have your sesame oil, SO. So once your pot is nice and hot over medium heat, again, that's like your 5 on your stove, your sesame oil, and then your white parts of your onion. So my guess is that's probably pretty hot. Add your sesame oil to that. Add your white parts of your onion. Smell that sesame oil getting hot. We're going to add the white parts. And we're going to stir fry that for about 30 seconds. And then white, let's see, it says white part and then part of the green. It says then white part, green onions. Okay, we're going to do the white part. And then we're going to do some of the, we're going to keep some of the green I'm going to keep some as a garnish. And it's only about 30 seconds. Okay, so we're going to stir that. Just softens those up just a little bit. And then you're going to add your soy sauce, which is your should be SM. Okay. Salt and pepper. All right. We have a mixture going. And after you mix that up, we need to add some, we got to add some liquid here. So we're going to do a 2 cup of water. And so I'm going to get some water here.
1 cup.
Or what? Sorry, 1 cup. We're doing a half a recipe. So 1 cup of water. And then actually it becomes 2 because you've got your chicken broth that takes another cup. So you've got 1 cup of water and then 1 cup of chicken broth. So we're going to take another cup of water and add it. And then I'm going to drop that half a bouillon cube in there. Okay. So I'll take that bouillon cube and you can kind of smush it up, break it up, and that way it'll dissolve nicely in there. Okay. So you should have that mixture. Okay. And after that's going, then we're going to transfer that and we're going to bring this to a boil. You want to cover it. So we'll cover it with a lid in a second. We're going to bring that to a boil.
So yes, that was 1 cup of water and then an additional cup for the chicken broth cube. So a total of 2 cups of water.
Yep. So we've got everything now. We're mixing our soup. We've got it. We're going to bring it to a boil, and then we're going to add the tofu and the glass noodles. So glass noodles are also known as cellophane noodles, and they could be actually made from any kind of any starch. A lot of times, they are typically used like mung bean or tapioca, canna starch, sweet potato, different types of starches used for that. So not a whole lot of nutrients in here. There's not a lot there. It's just a starch basically in water. Rice noodles can be used in place of cellophane. The difference is they're a little bit more opaque. These turn a bit more translucent. You'll see the difference. We're we're gonna add them to our boiling soup mixture. Once they get in there, then they'll soak up the liquid and they'll turn that translucent color like I mentioned. So we're gonna add the tofu in with the cellophane noodles, okay? And we're going to, let's see, stir the noodles in the beginning so they don't stick to each other in the pan. And then when they cooked, adjust the heat down to simmering. Then we're gonna do that beaten egg. So when you have your egg ready, and you can actually look at how's that for our seaweed. How cool is that? It was black to start with, and now we have this beautiful green seaweed. So I'm gonna strain that in a second. But what we'll do is, I think this is probably boiling. Yes. And I'm gonna add my cellophane noodles, and they probably can go in as whole, and they'll just drop in there. And then I'm also gonna add my tofu. I got a few green onions to go with it. I kept the green onions as a garnish for the top. Just a little bit, maybe a tablespoon. So we're gonna stir this a little bit. And when the noodles are cooked, I stirred it just a little. When they're cooked and they're gonna turn soft, it doesn't take long. It's like a minute or two to soften. We will get our egg ready. I need to turn my heat down just a bit. This pot of veggie mixture is still liquidy, so I have my cover on there still. Close. I think what I'll do is I will add my, I'll let that cook a little longer. I'm gonna add no, I needed to add the egg, right? Oh yeah, I don't have to add the wakame yet. So we're gonna do our egg. Now, here's your trick. So actually this cup is ideal because it'll make this nice spout. What you want to do is drizzle it across the top, and you don't want to overlap your egg. So you want to be able to get it so it's kind of in lines, and so it creates a good texture. So it'll puff up a bit when we do it. So it's kind of going, basically you cook it, it drops in and it cooks. Go to the edges. So that it's not in clumps. You don't want to have scrambled eggs in your soup. You just want to have this nice, delicate egg mixture. And there we go. So we'll stir that just gently. Created a nice mixture, okay? And after that step, I need to go back and got the wakame's going, and I'm gonna drain that off. So I'm just gonna make sure I did my, I'm gonna drain that. Okay. And we're gonna add that with your sesame seeds and the green parts of your onion. So we have a little bit of green onion in there already, but we're gonna add this in. We'll add our sesame seeds. And a little more of the green onion. We'll stir it. And your soup is ready. Okay, that one is done. And I can show you. Here's what you're gonna have as your final product, okay? So that's your soup. I'll put that off on the side. And let's get this guy back on the, I'm gonna heat up my oil. I'll bring that forward. So we did a trial run earlier with this. So again, get your oil ready, get it heating up now so that you have time to get it cooking. Okay, these are pretty much, they still have a lot of liquid in there, don't they? All right, Kelly, your thought? Let it go longer? Or should I add the carrot and burdock? All right, we're gonna add the carrots to this. Oops. Okay. Mix that. The fire's on. Did it drop? Yep. All right. So we're gonna get that to cook just a bit longer, right? So we get that carrot and burdock to cook, but we don't want it to get mushy. So don't cook it more than a couple minutes. Drop that in there. I'm gonna turn on, I've got my oil cooking a little bit. I'm gonna turn up my heat to probably 3. We'll get it started. I do have a thermometer. Now, the question is, how do you know if your oil is hot enough? What you really want to do is have the oil hot enough that it cooks the outside slow enough and the inside well enough so that you're not burning the outside and have a raw center. So the other trick that we figured out, and we're going to show you as we go, is to have a smaller quantity of dough going into the oil so that it cooks well. All right, so we're going to let's get our, I think we can start on at least making our andagi mix. So I'm going to have you back up just a bit, Kelly. And gotta flip my recipe. So like I said, I didn't use the oil because I had some left, but you can use as much of this as you'd like. So we have a mixture, and we gave you all like a quarter recipe. So your mixture is ready to go here. So you're gonna combine, you've got the flour, the sugar, the dry milk, baking powder, salt, all in here. So you're gonna add that to a bowl. And we have another egg. So you have 1 egg, and I will mix. I always crack my egg over a secondary bowl so that in case I get a shell, I don't put it into the mixture. So we're going to have that egg, and I am going to whip that up because we want it beaten. I'm just going to beat that up a little bit. And I also have vanilla and salad oil. So it's a AWM. Right? Pull that open and that will go into your, and I also need water. So we're going to use a 1/4 cup of water. So we're going to make, I'm going to put that with my egg. I'm like, where did that come from? Sushi. 1/4 cup of water. I am going to grab a measuring cup because I think I used my measuring cup. So I just, or we can do it this way. See what my volume is here. I've got, turn it around. I've got it on a 1/4, right? And if we want to go a 1/4 up, what would we have? Somebody do the math for me. If I have a 1/4, I need a 1/4 cup of water. So we cut this recipe into 4, right? We quartered it. So if I have a 1/4 cup in there now, what should I get to? My measuring cup. Come on, all my people out there, math. You didn't think you'd have to do math on a Friday night. What should I get to? Everybody get it? Yay! Stars, brownie points. All right. So I did see in one, I need a spoon. And we're going to put like a crater in our mixture. So our flour mixture looks really good. It's nicely mixed. But we're going to just create like a divot, and then I'm going to add that egg, and we're going to kind of fold it together. So the next question is, what is the baking powder in your, what's the baking powder in the flour mixture for? Oh, and I have, what's the baking powder for? Lift, good, rise. It's a leavening agent. So I'm going to add my flour. Still kind of keeping an eye on my carrot burdock mixture over here. Should we get drier?
I guess that's good.
Okay, got that. So we got Andagi, and I appreciate all of you like hanging out with us. We may go a little over, and I understand if you have to abandon the cooking show. We hate to see you go, because I have some fun facts coming up. So Okinawan versus Japanese. What's the difference between the two styles of food? Anybody know? Yeah, what's the difference between Okinawan food and Japanese food? Is there a difference? Maybe I could ask that. Is there a difference? What do you think? So anybody that's saying yes, you are correct. There is a difference. So in traditional Japanese, obviously that we have a little bit of a different flair and a different process or what they have. So a lot of times Japanese will have that sushi, sashimi, tempura style along with yakitori, gyoza, mochi. Those are Japanese style recipes. But as far as Okinawan, they usually do a lot more with pork, and they definitely use the entire pig. So they use it for different, they use different things for different purposes. So they use the entire pig. They also use sweet potatoes more, and they use soybean products more. Obviously, we're using soybean curd as far as tofu. So we have tofu blend tonight. So we have a Okinawan style soup. And then also a lot of times Okinawan has a little bit more spice, a little stronger flavors than Japanese food. So there's a little bit of a fun trivial piece for you as far as the difference between Okinawan food and Japanese food, because sometimes people think, oh, it's the same thing, but it's actually different. And another little bit of trivia, Okinawa was a prefecture, right? Independent kingdom until 1879, and then it was annexed by Japan, and it has been part of Japan ever since that point in time. So, all right, so my andagi mix is mixed. I'm gonna let that go again. I don't want to overmix flour, because if I overmix my flour, it gets tough. So we'll let that sit before my temperature of my oil is right at about 325. So we're right at where we want to be. If I get much hotter, then it turns, things get much more brown than what we want. So I'm gonna let that sit and hold at, down there. We're gonna get back to our sushi. So we'll flip my recipe back to my sushi recipe. We got our rice, and we have, that was from my experience. So let me put that there. Got your rice. And we are going to add, still don't know why that settled. What am I missing? Something settled down.
Probably
So
the salt. and
yeah,
the pepper.
it's got to be something that didn't catch the. Where did I add? It's
That was in the soup.
Oh, it's okay. Well, we can add it back to. I'm going to pull a little bit of liquid off the soup. There we go. I just added a little bit of liquid. Thanks, Kelly, for remembering where that went. Okay. Now you've got your veggies. So we're going to drain these, right? So we're going to drain this off with a colander, or I'm going to try this. So we're going to drain, we keep this liquid. I put it in here. So we're going to keep the liquid. We're going to drain it. And then we're going to mix this with the rice. Okay. Almost got it out. This is going to be mixed into the rice. I'm just going to put it here. Okay. There. Got that. So we're going to mix this burdock. Oh, we got to squeeze it. So actually, I'm going to push it through my. Oh, I want to keep the liquid. All these things to remember. Squeeze it down through your strainer. If you have you could do it through a towel, I guess. Whatever you have that was convenient for you. Squeeze that liquid out. Get it drained. Again, if you don't get it super drained, it just gets that, the rice will just get a little bit more soft. So we're going to drain it off pretty good. All right. Now, we want to get your hands a little bit wet because you're going to put them in with the rice. We're going to mix this together with the rice. Looks nice and dry. Mix this with the rice. The one nice thing about the parchment, or if you put it on something that you can like pull it up, then you have the ability to pull it and make it mix together. How's my cooking group doing? We gave you a challenge tonight. Yay! And this is all about trial and error, right? And having someone there to help you. That's always helpful. All right. So now that we have that mix, basically what we want to do is, I know there's like reserve liquids going on. So we have, that's the reserve liquid from the tofu. So where does my
That goes on your hands. This is if you wanted to add more to the
flavor?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try the
Rice.
rice mixture first.
if you want to add more of the chirashi sauce.
That would be
This one.
maybe a little bit, not much. It's pretty, I don't want to go salty. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit. Good. Okay, I'll mix that up a little bit more. Okay. Now, this liquid from the tofu, you can put on your hands a little bit because the rice will get sticky and it's got that oil. So we're going to make rice balls. And it said you could make up to 12. I think this should make 12, but we actually, it looks like more than 12. And if you make them smaller, then you could probably fit 2 inside your tofu pocket. All right, I'm just gonna make 1 and then I'm gonna transfer and we'll do a frying of your andagi so you can kind of see that for time. Basically, you wanna grab your pocket, you kind of invert it so that we get that, or you stretch it out and then we're gonna put that rice ball in. Actually, it kind of goes in nicely. And you wanna stretch out, get to the point where you can stretch those corners out. They get nice and round. And again, that rice does like to stick to your hands. So that's why it's ideal to have enough of that oily mixture on your hands. Okay. Kind of get a feel for it and how it works. Then you'll be able to stuff all of them. And that's Inari. All right. I don't know if anybody got a chance to try one of those. We're good. I'm going to put it on a plate. There we go. All right. Real quick. And we're going to do an andagi. I'll show you that, and then you'll be all set to go. So a little more reflection, a little bit more fun. Nice. Fortune cookies. Oh, there. Did you? Here we go. There is our bread. So then you could use, if you don't cut your burdock and your mushrooms as small, you can obviously use them as a bit of a garnish. You could garnish this with some green onions if you wanted. So we can do a little bit of everything for color. All right. So on the trivia. So fortune cookies. Some people used to think fortune cookies started in Japan, but or in China, but they actually started in Japan in 1870s in Kyoto. All right, so we're gonna start. Okay, remember I said real small because we don't want to make it burn. And I actually will get a pair of tongs. So have a pair of tongs ready and your plate with paper towel on it. So you have about, I don't know, that's about like a teaspoon maybe. If you don't have a scoopy like this, take a couple of teaspoons and do a small amount, and then you can basically drop it into the oil. Just be careful that you don't drop it from way too high, otherwise it will. Okay. So they should, you kind of know that they're turning brown. That's a good sign. They actually had a chance to rise a bit in the, we have a little bit of leavening going on. So you want them to get that nice, basically dark brown. or gold, I should say golden brown, not dark brown. You probably get, how many do I have in there? I feel like an 8 and 6. 6, I could probably go 1 more. We're gonna keep an eye on the color. Okay. So ramen, everybody loves ramen. That actually originated in China. Matcha, you all know what matcha powder is, right? So matcha powder used to be kind of a symbol of wealth because it was so expensive. The samurai used to have that. So samurai and monks would get matcha, and they would be the ones that could afford it. There was a little history about umami. So we've only had umami as a taste receptor. It was only identified in 2002. So that's really not that long ago. We're in 2022. So 20 years ago is when they determined that we actually have a sensor in the mouth on the tongue for umami. So umami is that savory kind of a sensation. And we realized that that's more than just saying, oh, it's a flavor that's just what we taste. So it's umami. We've identified it as one of the taste buds. So in 1908, there was a Japanese chemist who actually found it first. And then it took until 1985 for them to recognize it as a scientific term that dealt with glutamates and nucleotides. So that actually became a term in 1985. And then it took 20 years ago, we learned that it was actually umami. What else do I have for fun facts? In Japan, for a long time, eating meat was forbidden. And that was the reason behind that a lot of times was the Buddhist traditions, right? They were, Buddhist monks were definitely more vegetarians, and they still to this day are. And so they did not eat meat. And so that's why most of the time meat was not encouraged. So it really took until the Western influence, after about 200 years before they actually started consuming meat. And food models. So if you ever look around and you see like food models that look like Chinese or Japanese food, that really became popular back in, let's see what I had, 1920s. So now today it's out of plastic. They used to use it with paraffin. All right, so it looks like my andagi is about done. We'll put those out on the plate. One way you can check to see if it's done, it's kind of like a quick bread. So you can actually check with a toothpick, and if it comes out clean, it would be done. But these have been sitting in there a while. They're floating. It's nicely moving around. You don't want to overcrowd your andagi. Make sure they cook evenly. And that little edge that you have, that little, what they call it a tail, that's probably one of the most sought after pieces because it gets nice and crispy. So give them a chance to cook. Don't overcrowd them, and then you'll have these lovely andagi afterwards. And again, see, if you look at my oil, that's a really good sign that you're not cooking it too hot. It's not like blowing up all over when you put it in. It's a nice kind of a sizzle, and you kind of flip them over so they turn brown on each side. It does not want to turn that way. Okay. So that's all. We did it. How's that? Oh my gosh, this is an exciting adventure for all of us. So I hope you enjoy your meal tonight. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a, due to my spider on my head, have a safe Halloween. If you're doing anything over the weekend, be safe. Otherwise, we'll see you in November. Oh, happy birthday. Kelly or Callie? Kelly, I'm an October baby too. So, hey, but I'm a Libra. You're probably a Sagittarius, Scorpio. So, all right. All of our October babies, happy birthday. Have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful evening. Bye, everybody. See you next month.